Okay, so let's look at some examples of how proximity actually matters. Going local means letting people be aware, make them aware, and educate them about the link between what they experience in their backyard to how that is made worse by climate change. If it's made better, obviously there is no issue, but the study finds that people are likelier to change their behaviors when concrete opportunities for local climate action are made available to them. So it has to be local to the extent that they can do it and see the impact in their community, in their backyard, as you will, if you will. Knowing the risks without having the opportunities to act can produce paralysis. So if you keep on putting out a message that climate change is creating lots of problems and the future is really hopeless, people feel like there is nothing they can do. And this actually produces a wait and see attitude or simply paralysis, because it's not clear how changing their light bulbs or driving less or eating less meat is going to reduce their risk or change things in their backyard. So this proximity is very critical in many ways. Here is the example: Miami Beach residents crossing flooded streets, an accelerating impact of sea level rise in South Florida. So the eastern coast of US in general is experiencing accelerated sea level rise, ocean warming, hurricanes, more hurricanes becoming intense and rapidly intensifying, and not slowing down even after hitting land. So they are dumping much more rain. So people are beginning to realize that this is not a joke anymore, because after 2005, Katrina and several other hurricanes created massive losses of life and property, displacement, and so on. There were a few years of lull, but now year after year we are having incredible number of hurricanes, and 2020 in fact broke all records for named storms. Okay, so that's not something people are going to ignore for much longer. Of course, it's still got a long way to go. This is an example from the UK, I think 2003 flood, where impact of flooding experience on preparedness to reduce energy use mediated by perceived instrumentality. In other words, feeling that I am doing something. Concern and uncertainty and perceived local vulnerability, thinking that our town, our community is vulnerable to flooding, made more likely or more severe by climate change. Okay, the demographic variables of age, gender, and socioeconomic grade were included as covariates within the analysis, and effects observed are net of their impact. Values provided are beta weights indicating the strength of the relationship between the variables. Heavy lines indicate significant pathways. So you have flooding experience and perceived instrumentality, concern, uncertainty, and perceived local vulnerability, leading to preparedness to reduce energy use. So people were told that the flooding was related to global warming, and people were ready to act to reduce their energy use, to reduce their own impact on global warming. Of course, it turned out that after a few years, if the flooding didn't happen again, people begin to slowly relax. People forget. It's a good thing we have evolved to forget trauma. It's a good thing, but in this case, the problem is that you will get hit again. But it's a question of when. As we said before, climate change loads the dice, in the sense a flood that could happen every 20 years will happen every 5 years. So people forget within 5 years, but if they experience it 2 or 3 times, then they realize, okay, this is going to happen more often. So there are many layers to this proximity to disaster and the experience affecting your agency and your ability and autonomy to act. Okay, The likelihood of behavioral transformation increases when those opportunities for action are collective, participatory actions involving neighbors, friends, and fellow congregants, and others are in a person's immediate social reference group. So it's not just what I can do, it's like what can we do, our community, our social group, our reference group, family, etc. So reference groups have several levels. Individual is got a family as its closest reference group, then friends, social class, selected subcultures, could be music group, yoga group, meditation group, library group, whatever. One's own culture is broader, and other cultures. So these are the kind of reference group that we all get affected by. Nonetheless, there are many groups evolving along these lines. The Climate Action Network International is one of them. You can visit the website and see them, what they do and how they impact policy and what campaigns they run, what can Climate Action Network do, and so on and so forth, and how you can communicate with the members. There is also the Climate Justice Alliance, communities taking bold action on the front lines of climate change. So another citizen group, reference group, whatever you want to call it. And this is how you can evolve. The example here is ecosystem-based management with 3 context-specific dimensions of interactions between stakeholders. So this is about going local, getting personal, and getting this knowledge all the way to decision making. So there are the scientists, and there are the stakeholders, and there are the decision makers. There is an interaction here that salience of the information coming from the scientists determines the scientific uptake. In general, scientists tend to overestimate the value of their science in decision making, or the use of science in decision making. A decision maker has many issues to deal with, and they may listen to science but do something that's practical that may not be totally consistent with science. Okay, so 0 to 100% uptake of scientific advice can happen. Legitimacy of participation happens with the interactions between decision makers and other stakeholders, and scientists and stakeholders interact on credibility of through knowledge production. So salience, legitimacy, and credibility are part of this collaborative solution, integrated solution that can emerge. Okay, so these tend to be government centralistic and self-management, and here it can be single, multi, inter, or transdisciplinary. In fisheries especially, it can be about banks giving loans to fishermen, their families, fishing villages, and other factors. Okay, so going local, getting personal also means proximity to the experience, personal experience of climate impacts, and having a community with which you feel that you are in this together, experiencing this event, kinds of events that are increasing the risk, and you want to do something to reduce the risk, reduce the vulnerability, increase resilience, and so on.